When my grandparents passed away, leaving behind their home, my parents faced a dilemma. Rather than opting for the conventional route of selling the property, they made an unconventional decision. They allowed me, their child on the cusp of adulthood, to take up residence in the house. It was an unexpected but welcomed proposition. After all, I was at the age where branching out on my own seemed imminent, so why not make use of the available space? The only condition attached was that I handle the financial responsibilities, covering the taxes and monthly expenses. Initially, the prospect of living alone was exhilarating. The freedom to come and go as I pleased, hosting friends whenever the mood struck, felt liberating. However, as time passed, the solitude began to weigh heavily on me. The quietness of the house, once comforting, now seemed suffocating. Enter Rocky, my furry savior. A 2-year-old German shepherd with a calm demeanor and gentle disposition, he became my faithful companion. I named him after the legendary Rocky Balboa, inspired by his resilience and strength. Rocky was more than just a pet. He was a source of comfort and companionship in my newfound solitude. Rocky's presence brought a sense of security to the house. With him by my side, I felt less alone, less vulnerable. His vigilant nature provided an added layer of protection, especially during the quiet, lonely nights. One fateful evening, Rocky's usually calm demeanor was shattered by frantic barking. Startled from my slumber, I stumbled out of bed to investigate. Rocky was fixated on the basement door, his senses on high alert. Fear clenched my heart. I was accustomed to relying on my parents for moments like these, but now I was on my own. With trembling hands, I opened the door, allowing Rocky to lead the way. As we descended the stairs, a sense of unease settled over me. Rocky's silence was deafening, a stark contrast to his earlier outburst. When I finally found him, he was standing before a closed closet door, his tail tucked between his legs. Tension hung in the air as I approached the closet, my heart pounding in my chest. Thoughts raced through my mind as I debated whether to confront whatever lurked within. In the end, fear won out, and I chose to retreat with Rocky by my side. Back in the safety of my bedroom, I called my dad, seeking guidance in the midst of my panic. His voice, though groggy with sleep, provided a semblance of reassurance. He urged me to arm myself and investigate further, but the thought of facing the unknown alone was too daunting. As I spoke with my dad, a realization struck me. The basement door was still open. Panic surged through me as I heard footsteps echoing through the house. Without hesitation, I dialed emergency services, seeking refuge in their presence. By the time the authorities arrived, the intruder had vanished, leaving behind a trail of uncertainty and fear. The open basement window served as a grim reminder of the vulnerability that comes with living alone. Yet, amidst the chaos and fear, one thing remained constant: Rocky's unwavering loyalty and steadfast companionship.
About 5 years ago, my family, consisting of myself, my brother Alec, and our mom, was in a constant state of flux. We were constantly on the move, facing the challenges of finding stability amidst financial uncertainty. My mom struggled to secure a full-time job that paid well, and we often found ourselves abruptly uprooted in the dead of night. However, our fortunes took a turn when my mom landed a job with a well-known lock manufacturer in a nearby city. The company even provided her with the funds to rent a house close to the factory, signaling a glimmer of hope on the horizon. The move seemed promising, and for a while it felt like we were finally catching a break. The new neighborhood, though unremarkable to most, felt like paradise to us kids. It was a typical working-class area, bustling with other families and plenty of activities to keep us occupied. Since our dad passed away when I was just 10, life had been a roller coaster of ups and downs. But now it almost felt like a return to normalcy, if only for a fleeting moment. Yet amidst the semblance of stability, strange occurrences began to unsettle our newfound peace. It started with subtle noises, bumps, scratches, and odd sounds that seemed to echo through the house. At first, I brushed them off as figments of imagination, but soon even I couldn't ignore their persistent presence. One morning, over breakfast, the three of us heard it together, a distinct ring chime reminiscent of a phone. It was brief but unmistakable, leaving us exchanging puzzled glances. We chalked it up to a passing anomaly, perhaps a bird outside, and carried on with our day. But the noises persisted, becoming a regular part of our daily lives. Bumps on the floor, scratching sounds, they became almost routine, yet never less unsettling. We searched the house, discovering a small hole leading into the attic, and speculated that some critter might be the source of the disturbances. However, our peace was shattered when food started disappearing from the kitchen. As someone who struggled with weight issues since childhood, I bore the brunt of the accusations. My mom, unable to comprehend my struggles, blamed me for the missing food, further straining our already fragile relationship. But the true horror unfolded when Alec experienced a chilling encounter. After returning home unexpectedly one day, he stumbled upon a stranger, half-dressed, lurking in our front bathroom. The man's presence sent Alec fleeing in terror, seeking refuge at a neighbor's house while we awaited the arrival of the authorities. As the police combed through our home, they made a disturbing discovery in the basement, a makeshift bedroll hidden behind boxes, indicating that the intruder had been living among us, undetected for an unknown duration. The revelation left us reeling, grappling with fear and uncertainty. Our sense of security shattered. We were haunted by the thought of what could have transpired under our own roof. Despite our efforts to move past the ordeal, its lingering effects continued to plague us. In the aftermath, we relocated to a new home, seeking solace and safety away from the horrors of the past. Over time, wounds healed, and life gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy. Yet the experience left an indelible mark on each of us, a reminder of the fragility of our sense of security. As I reflect on those tumultuous days, I can't help but wonder about the intruder, the shadowy figure who invaded our lives and shattered our peace. Was he ever apprehended, or does he still lurk in the shadows, preying on unsuspecting victims? The experience serves as a chilling reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected of places, perhaps even beneath the very floorboards of your own home. So to those reading this, I urge you to remain vigilant, for you never know what horrors may be lurking just below the surface.
As youngsters, we often find ourselves in a constant tug-of-war with the authority figures in our lives. It's a natural part of our development, this insatiable curiosity coupled with a desire to test the boundaries set for us. We yearn to explore, to push the limits, to see just how far we can go before facing consequences. For me, this journey of self-discovery was marked by a series of events that forced me to confront the consequences of my actions head-on. Growing up in the wake of my father's tragic death in Vietnam, I found myself navigating the turbulent waters of adolescence without the guidance of a paternal figure. My mother, a resilient and hard-working woman, did her best to provide for us, but she couldn't fill the void left by my father's absence. As I entered my formative years, I became increasingly rebellious, testing the boundaries set by my mother with reckless abandon. I craved adventure, seeking thrills in the most unlikely of places. My curiosity often led me into trouble, but I was too stubborn to heed the warnings of those who cared about me. It was during one fateful spring break that my defiance reached its peak. With my mother overwhelmed by her work obligations, she turned to my paternal grandmother, Granny Jean, for assistance. Despite the strained relationship between my mother and Granny Jean, they both agreed that a change of scenery might do me good. So, I found myself on a bus headed for Granny Jean's farm, unsure of what the week ahead would hold. From the moment I arrived, I could sense tension lingering in the air. Granny Jean was a no-nonsense woman, hardened by years of hardship, while I was a stubborn and headstrong youth, determined to chart my own course. The first few days at the farm passed without incident, but as the week wore on, I grew restless. The allure of adventure called to me, beckoning me to explore the vast expanse of the countryside that stretched out before me. Ignoring Granny Jean's warnings to stay close to home, I set out on my own, eager to satisfy my curiosity. It was during one of these solo excursions that I stumbled upon the old abandoned farmhouse. Standing tall and imposing against the backdrop of the setting sun, it seemed to whisper tales of mystery and intrigue. Unable to resist its siren call, I ventured inside, the thrill of the unknown coursing through my veins. What started as a simple exploration quickly descended into chaos when I found myself trapped in the basement, the door slamming shut behind me. Alone in the darkness, fear gripped me as I struggled to make sense of my surroundings. The air was thick with the musty scent of decay, and the sound of my own heartbeat echoed loudly in my ears. Hours passed, each one feeling like an eternity as I grappled with the reality of my situation. The darkness seemed to close in around me, suffocating me with its oppressive weight. Desperation clawed at my chest as I searched for a way out, but every attempt proved futile. In my darkest moments, as despair threatened to consume me whole, I found myself longing for the warmth and safety of Granny Jean's kitchen. It was there that I had felt truly at peace, surrounded by the comforting embrace of family and the soothing melodies of the radio. As the night wore on, my resolve began to waver, and I slipped into unconsciousness, unsure if I would ever wake again. But as the first light of dawn broke through the darkness, I found myself awaking in Granny Jean's kitchen, the events of the previous night feeling like nothing more than a distant dream. Granny Jean's kindness and wisdom had saved me once again, pulling me back from the brink of despair and guiding me towards a path of redemption. It was a humbling experience, one that taught me the importance of listening to the wisdom of those who care about us and the consequences of our actions. Leaving Granny Jean's farm, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and gratitude for the people who had helped shape me into the person I was becoming. My journey was far from over, but with Granny Jean's guidance, I felt better equipped to face whatever challenges lay ahead.
It wasn't until I hit my 30s that I came to realize the gravity of our mistake. Although technically illegal, nobody was harmed. Animals aren't humans, after all. It wasn't until I delved into psychology that Isaiah's behavior truly raised concerns. Don't get me wrong, after making that discovery, I wouldn't have trusted him even with an ant. But it took me a while to grasp the true extent of the danger he posed. By the time it sank in, it was too late. Mark and his family hadn't heard from Isaiah in years. Since then, I haven't had a peaceful night's sleep, and I'm sure once I divulge what we found in that basement, your sleep might be affected too. Let's start with a brief rundown of the individuals involved. None of the names I'll use here are real for the safety of innocent parties. It was the summer of 2003, a scorching day just after July 4th. Both myself and my best friend Mark were 18, and Mark had a younger brother, Isaiah, who was 12. I practically lived at their place for the past decade, seeking refuge from my tumultuous home life. But I digress. Let's focus on that particular day. The heat was unbearable. Even the AC struggled. We sought solace in the seldom-used basement, hoping for a cooler spot. Mark and I spent hours down there, rummaging through boxes on the shelves. At the top of one shelf sat a large, unlabeled box. Naturally, our curiosity piqued, and I, being slightly taller, was tasked with retrieving it. My attempt to grab it resulted in a foolish decision. I knocked it down. With a dull thud, the box hit the floor, and that's when the first corpse emerged. At first, we mistook it for something else, but upon closer inspection, it was unmistakably a dead cat. Mark's reaction was instant. He dropped it with an exclamation. Intrigued yet disturbed, I grabbed a nearby rod and flipped the box over. What we saw next horrified us. A gruesome collection of dead animals greeted our eyes. Most appeared to be local pets. Confused and disgusted, we delved deeper. Underneath the corpses lay Isaiah's old toys. 5 out of the 6 dead animals were cats, with an additional small dog. It was evident they'd been strangled or had their throats slit. The sight made my skin crawl. Some still had cords wrapped around their necks. It was too much to bear. Mark and I knew we had to involve his parents. Their disgust mirrored ours upon seeing the grisly scene. Mark swore he wasn't responsible, leaving only one suspect, Isaiah. The interrogation that followed confirmed our suspicions. I left soon after. This was a family matter, though my perception of Isaiah had irrevocably shifted. The decision was made to get Isaiah counseling, but the police were never involved. The pet owners remained unaware of their beloved animal's fate. Mark rationalized Isaiah's actions as self-defense initially, but his parents weren't convinced. Eventually, Isaiah accepted responsibility and apologized. As a child, I struggled to accept this resolution, but now I see it as a chilling precursor to something darker. Years passed, and I lost touch with Mark, but my search led me to discover Isaiah's troubled path. He stopped attending counseling, his behavior deteriorated, and he began moving from city to city. Each new location coincided with unsolved crimes and murders. I can't help but feel a sense of dread, wondering if I'm his next target. Despite the distance and time, the fear lingers. I find myself scanning crowds for his face, though I doubt I'd recognize him now. Every stranger's approach sends shivers down my spine. Perhaps it's paranoia, but the possibility of encountering him terrifies me.